Hello, everyone, and we are here briefly to talk about the big news that broke yesterday. And in the class all semester, we have talked about various things that maybe have gone on with the company and asked, talked about the fan relations of the company and senior management, and also some of the uh, decisions that senior management has made with the studio aspect or the studio side of the company. And so now that a change has been made, Bob Iger is been reinstalled as the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Obviously, Bob Chapek that means he has stepped down and left the company. Some of the really interesting questions now are, when was this decision made, and was this primarily something from the earnings call? There's news out now that says the board had reached out to Bob Iger possibly on Friday following the concern over their earnings call, and the way that the performance and then the way that the call was handled. Um, was it more than that? What was it? Other things that were going into that? Because in consumer behavior, when stock prices are high, but consumers possibly are not happy about something, well, there's a disconnect because what the consumers are saying doesn't necessarily impact the performance or the behavior of those consumers. But when stock prices start dropping and revenue starts dropping and performance dropping, well, then you get a situation where more of those complaints are paid attention to. And so, did that play a role in this? Was it primarily the earnings? That'll be something I'm sure within the next, few weeks or so, we will find more out about. But the initial reaction also is, people seemingly are excited, and excited to have Bob Iger back as well. And so then the next question is, what can the expectations be? It seems as though Bob Iger is there for 2 years, and as part of the agreement, at the end of the 2 years, there needs to be someone that is ready, has been groomed to take over as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. And so there's a lot of questions there as far as, are we going to see big changes? Are we going to see something major happen over the next 2 years? Or is this sort of a way to right the ship and possibly let consumers and the shareholders know that concerns are being listened to? There was something that wasn't working. And so they're making changes and trying to right this for the next 2 years and then moving forward. I would expect there's not going to be huge changes because, things like acquisitions take a really long time. I'm not really sure there's going to be huge changes in the parks. From a consumer behavior perspective, it doesn't, companies don't usually come in and there's a change in leadership and then they drop prices or they drop things like that. So I'm not sure there's going to be changes in the parks to things like the entrance fees or the reservation system or things like Genie or Genie Plus, Lightning Lane, things like that. And then another really interesting question is, throughout its history, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company has really come from the studio side of the company. And then, Bob Chapek was from the parks and entertainment side of the company. Seeing as maybe that hasn't worked out, is that a sign of things to come for future CEOs with the company are going to come from the studio side of it? Or what does that mean for the future direction of senior management? Will we see somebody from the park side become CEO again, the parks and entertainment side? And then the final question that I pose to everybody is, what is the next CEO? What are some of the things that they need to do? Not necessarily who is going to be the next CEO, but what are some of the attributes and the qualities, the characteristics that they need to have to be successful? Because up until yesterday, the CEO or the senior management of the Walt Disney Company has really been in place for a long time. You would have 15 to 20 years that someone would be CEO of a company. And then also interestingly, when Bob Iger took over, he was taking over for um, Eisner, who had become very unpopular in the last 7, 8 years, decade of his tenure, and the company had to fend off a hostile takeover from Comcast Corporation. Then that's when Bob Iger was taking over. When Michael Eisner took over, it was from Ron Miller, who the company had also had to fend off a hostile takeover situation. So when Eisner started and Iger started, they started in a position where it was not all of their decisions were popular at the beginning, obviously, but they started from kind of a place where people felt like they could go up. And when Bob Iger left and Bob Chapek took over, that was really one of the first times that there had been a transition from CEO or upper management, where somebody left out on great terms. I mean, going back to probably even Walt Disney, when he unfortunately had to leave the company, or when he was when he passed away and that transition was made. So it's a really interesting observation that leads into questions of what does this look like, and what does it look like for the future of the company and future potential CEOs or upper management in the company. These will lead to several more conversations, and I hope that it leads to more thought-provoking discussions, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes in the future. It's definitely something that has not happened very much, and has never happened to the Walt Disney Company. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.